Let's talk about the price tag. You see it, you probably trust it, but so often it's nothing more than a carefully crafted illusion. It's a story, one specifically designed to separate you from your money. Today, we're going to peel back that curtain.
So let me just ask you this straight up. What if the price tag is lying to you? And I don't mean a little white lie. I mean a massive, fundamental deception about what something is actually worth. We're about to deconstruct the prices of things you buy all the time and show you what you're really paying for.
Here's how we're going to break it all down. First up, we'll get into the 10,000% markup club. Wild, right? Then we'll see how marketing can literally create value out of thin air. After that, we'll uncover some systems that are, well, just rigged from the start. And finally, we'll look at how companies cash in on our emotions. Let's get to it.
Okay, first up, the most shocking offenders. These are the products where the price you pay has almost zero connection to what it costs to make them. And this is all thanks to some really clever business models, or just straight-up monopolies.
Let's start with your morning shave. You know those fancy multi-blade razor cartridges? A single one can go for around $5, but you want to know what it costs to actually produce it? About 5 cents.
Yeah, you heard that right. That is a 10,000% markup. It's the classic, give them the razor, sell them the blades model. They get you hooked on their specific handle, and then they can charge you pretty much whatever they want for the blades you have to keep buying. And all those extra features, the moisture strips, the precision trimmers, they cost next to nothing to add. You're not paying for better tech, you're paying for their marketing genius.
All right, let's talk about a monopoly that's kinda hiding in plain sight. Ever heard of a company called Luxottica? Probably not, but I guarantee you they own something you've worn. This one company controls almost the entire world of designer eyewear. You name a big brand, yeah, they probably make it.
So, let's say you see a pair of designer sunglasses for $300. They feel nice, they look amazing, but here's the kicker. They cost Luxottica about $15 to make. And here's where their control is just total. They don't just make the glasses, they also own the stores that sell them, like Sunglass Hut. So you're basically walking from one of their businesses into another.
A 2,000% markup is totally normal here. You're not buying some superior space-age quality. You're paying a few $100 for a tiny logo stamped on a $15 plastic frame. That's the game.
Okay, now let's move into our next category. This is where the product itself is almost beside the point. What you're really, truly buying is the story, the feeling, the brand, and it's all built with millions and millions of marketing dollars.
Let's take a $100 bottle of perfume. You probably picture rare flowers being picked on a distant mountainside, right? Well, the reality is, the actual scented liquid and the bottle it's in, that costs about $5. The other $95, that's all marketing, fancy packaging, and store markups. The scent itself is almost always made from synthetic ingredients cooked up in a lab for pennies.
There's this quote that just sums it up perfectly. When you see that slick commercial with a movie star on a yacht or, a panther slinking through the shadows, remember, that's what your money is paying for. You are literally paying for the panther, not the perfume.
All right, next up, the mattress industry. Oh boy. Their main strategy seems to be just confuse the customer. They'll take the exact same mattress, give it a bunch of different names for different stores, so the Celestial Sleeper 3000 at one place is the Dreamweaver Pro somewhere else. Why? So you can't compare prices. It's impossible.
And the result of all that confusion? An average markup of around 900%. That $3,000 mattress you're lying on, the one with aerospace-grade memory foam, it probably cost about $300 to make. You're not paying for NASA tech, you're paying for a bunch of marketing buzzwords and a hefty sales commission.
And this pattern goes all the way down to the grocery aisle. Check this out, an $8 box of premium pasta right next to a $1 box of the store brand. What are the ingredients? The exact same thing, semolina and water. All those fancy terms like bronze dye, all that means is the pasta has a slightly rougher surface. It's nice, sure, but is it worth a 700% price hike? Come on.
And don't even get me started on designer paint. You're literally paying for poetry. A $150 gallon of something called Whispered Sage at Twilight is chemically identical to a $30 gallon of light gray. Same pigments, same binders. The extra $120 is for the fancy name and the perfectly curated Instagram ad you saw.
It's the same deal with brand name medicine. The active ingredient in Advil is just ibuprofen. The generic version is the exact same molecule, and it costs a tiny fraction of the price. But the most shameless example has to be ZzzQuil.
It's just diphenhydramine, the same active ingredient in allergy meds like Benadryl, but they add some purple dye and triple the price. You are literally paying extra for the color purple. So we've seen monopolies, we've seen marketing magic, but now let's talk about industries where crazy high prices are just built into the system. These are rackets designed from the ground up to leave you, the consumer, with very few, very expensive choices.
The perfect example, the college textbook racket. Here's how the game works. Step 1, publishers release a so-called new edition every year with tiny, meaningless changes. Step 2, they bundle it with a one-time use online access code that expires at the end of the semester. This makes buying a used book completely worthless and forces every single student to shell out $300 for a brand new copy. It's a closed loop.
And that brings us to our final category. And honestly, this is the most manipulative of them all. These are the industries that prey on our emotions during the biggest and often the most vulnerable moments of our lives.
First, there's the infamous wedding tax. And yes, it's a very real thing. You can take a beautiful white dress, and the moment you call it a wedding dress, the price can jump by 3, 4, even 5 times. Vendors know it's your special day, and they count on those high emotions to get you to open your wallet.
But it gets so much darker. In the funeral industry, grief is actually weaponized. A funeral director might try to sell you a $10,000 casket that costs them maybe a few $100s, and they'll use lines just like this, implying that how much you spend is a direct measure of how much you loved someone. It is pure, calculated emotional manipulation.
But this is why it is so important to know your rights. There's a federal law called the Funeral Rule, and it says that funeral homes have to accept a casket you buy from somewhere else. You can often find the exact same models online for 75% less, and it is flat out illegal for them to charge you a handling fee for it. Knowledge is your only defense against this kind of exploitation.
So after all that, what's the big takeaway? You've seen the playbook, right? Whether it's a monopoly, slick marketing, a rigged system, or just plain emotional manipulation, the game is always the same, to convince you that price equals value. But once you know how the game is played, you can start to beat the system.
In the end, it all comes down to being a more critical consumer. So the next time you're shopping, just stop for a second and ask yourself this question. What else in my shopping cart is lying to me? Because armed with this knowledge, you have the power to look right past that price tag and see what's really going on. Thanks for tuning in.